It's really about self-preservation at the end of the day.
Yeah.
That's how I feel. So just do things that are going to make your future self proud. Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Joy, and over here we talk about dental school. Sometimes we try on scrubs, sometimes we're baking. There's a lot going on. Anyway, I'm happy you're here. Today's video is a little different than anything else that I've ever posted here on any of my socials. My good friend Hamza asked me to be on his podcast, and so I did. So the next 37 minutes or so are gonna be of us just having a conversation about relationships, growing, self, and basically he asked me to talk about something I'm passionate about. And I'm passionate about myself, okay? I love her. She's my favorite, and so I love to take care of her. And in this podcast, we just get into different ways that you can do things for yourself. It doesn't have to be big, but taking care of yourself really is the foundation for building good relationships with other people, because I feel like the most important relationship you have in this life is the one to yourself. So I hope y'all enjoy. If you don't say anything, but if you do enjoy it, hit the like button please, and subscribe if you haven't already. All of his information, his socials, will be in the description box below, and I really hope that y'all enjoyed this conversation as much as I did.
1, 2, 3. All right, hi guys, this is Hamza. Welcome to hanging out with Hamza today. We have a special guest on. Her name is Joy. She's actually one of my good friends I met recently. We met through FIGS, of course, and she is also a dentist that practices in Houston, and we kind of connected through like a interesting shared experience. We both had rather unhealthy relationships in our past that we kind of overcame and grew through, and Joy was a big help in helping me through that. So that's kind of our connection, and she's just been an incredible friend ever since. We've always caught up with each other and kind of kept in touch with each other ever since, and I really wanted to have her on the podcast because I think just as a human being, as a woman, as a fellow dentist, she just has a lot to offer in terms of just being an incredible human, and I felt like I needed to share that on my podcast. So without further ado, here's Joy. I'm gonna let her introduce herself, and yeah.
Thank you. That was such a nice intro.
You're welcome. It's true.
Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm Joy. Yeah, I'm a dentist in Houston. I have a dog. I'm obsessed with her, but I really call myself a part-time dentist, a full-time leisure specialist. That is what I do, and that's who I am. It's all about leisure. I don't care that much about, well, that's not true. I do care about career and those types of things, but more than anything, I just want to live a life of peace and abundance and just build relationships with people.
Yeah, and I think that's really what helped me connect with her. I just felt like the first conversation we had was almost like an immediate friendship that we developed. It was very natural and took zero effort. And I think the reason I wanted to bring her on here was that a lot of what I've seen through her development is like one example I kind of brought up with her was she shaved her head at one point in her life, and that kind of became a part of her identity, which signified her kind of breakaway from that hurt self that she went through, and became this independent, powerful person that kind of took over their life in a way. And I think shaving her head was part of that kind of signal of development and personal growth. And we talked about it the other night, and I forgot everything I said about it, but hopefully she can kind of verbalize it a bit better.
Yeah. I didn't realize, like, when you were telling me, I was like, I guess that's true.
Yeah.
But I shaved my head after the first year of dental school, and that first year of dental school was terrible for me.
Yeah.
I had a terrible time. I was, like, making new friends, losing old friends. My relationship at the time, I had broken up with my ex. That was before we got back together again. But at that time, it was just like, I'm going to do this for me.
Yeah.
And whatever comes of it, comes of it. If I hate it, I'll just put on a wig and hide for the summer. But if I love it, then that's crazy. And here I am 3 years later. No hair on my head, no plans to put any more hair on my head. And I think that life has opened up for me, not because of that, but since then, just like that change in my mindset.
Yeah, I think it's like, yeah, it's like a physical thing, and it's definitely a visual change, but it's also like something I think was personally like empowering for you. And I think it was also inspiring for other people, because I think there's a lot of females that follow you and males that see that and how you kind of took that kind of control of yourself, and you took that identity as your own. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that's what kind of drew me to you in the first place too. I think that confidence and that like that self-awareness that you don't see a lot on Instagram, especially because everything's filtered and, you know, fake for the most part. So when you see that confidence, it's very rare and it's appreciated. And I think even when I talk to you, like, obviously we both talking like we're not fully healed. We're still like broken in certain aspects.
Work in progress. Exactly. At all times.
Yeah, but you definitely instilled a lot of confidence in me, and just kind of reminded me how much you have to like love yourself and know that you're hot shit and a lot of stuff like that. And I think that's a big reason why I want to be on this podcast, because in terms of like passion, we were trying to figure out together what your passion was. And I think a big part of it is just yourself, like, you know, having a passion for self-love and self-awareness. And I love that because, you know, firstly, because we don't have to talk about dentistry, which is a relief.
Amazing.
But also just like, you know, your ability to like hopefully inspire people listening to this podcast, especially a lot of people who have gone through what we've went through or are going through what we're going through. I think the best thing is to be able to share that, you know, with more people, because you basically take that pain and that it's like kind of like our responsibility after that. Like once you go through it, I think it's a responsibility on our part to like help people who are going through it, because we understand it and you gain this empathy and appreciation for that, and you know that it's like it's not something a lot of people can understand to a certain degree.
Right.
So.
And it's hard. Like you don't want to. You feel super isolated, kind of, and I don't want anyone to feel like they're alone in this, or that nobody's ever like nobody understands them, because maybe nobody understands exactly what you're going through, but you can relate somehow. And if anything that I've learned in my journey can help you in yours, that's what we're gonna do.
Yeah. And so, I mean, it can be relationship related, or it can be about a toxic work environment, toxic relationship, a toxic family. But, you know, at the end of the day, it's something unhealthy. And sometimes people have trouble breaking free of it, or they have trouble disconnecting from that. And I think you helped me a lot with that by kind of realizing that the only way to disconnect is to love yourself first, and, you know, try to avoid jumping into another relationship, or try to avoid doing anything that takes you away from realizing like what you need to work on. And so in that regard, I wanted to see if you could like maybe give further insight onto how you got through your situation, and like what led you to shave your head, and how you kind of identified all of that yourself.
Okay. I've always wanted to shave my head.
Okay.
I've wanted to do that, especially the last few years of college. I was like, there's so much, because I went to Howard University, go Bison, HBCU, so it is a campus full of beautiful Black people.
Yeah. And
so I want to keep up with them. I don't want to look like everybody else, but I want to look good and take care of myself in the way that everyone else cares about their appearance too. And trying to do that, it was fun. I had a great time getting my hair done, with the sew-ins, all that stuff. But it was never something that I actually enjoyed doing. I hate doing my hair.
Yeah.
I hate having to curate what I look like and just do the makeup, because I feel like I'm not good at those things, so I want to do them.
Yeah.
And also it took up a lot of time and effort and money, and I'm like, I don't need to do this.
Yeah.
So then finally, after the first year of dental school, I was like, it is the summer. I have 2 weeks of summer. And I'm going to see what happens if I just go for it.
Yeah.
And I'd kind of been dabbling in it. Like, I tried different Snapchat filters. Be like, what would I look like, bald? My sister also cut her hair.
Was it accurate when you did the Snapchat filter?
It sure was.
Yeah, so it kind of further helped make you the decision.
Yes, I was like, if the Snapchat filter says I look okay with no hair, and my sister looks good with no hair, I can do this too.
Yeah, and you do look great. You look
Thank
beautiful.
you. But this is like the last iteration of it, because I started out with like a little bit.
Yeah, so you went like step by step before you finally.
And honestly, I look best with nothing on my head, so
Yeah.
that is what I've gotten to. But at that, like at the same time I was doing that, I was like, there's nothing to hide behind, Joy. Like, there's nothing, you can't hide behind a bang, some braids. Like, no, this is just you. This is what you look like. And if you can't accept that, then that is a you problem.
Yeah. And it's kind of like, it's weird. It's kind of like a vulnerability in a physical manner too. It's kind of like you're vulnerable to the cold air and the temperature and everything, but also you're vulnerable because you can't change who you are as a person. Like even me, like if I want to dress appropriately for like a business meeting, I have to like comb my hair back and make it nice and clean and stuff. But when I go out, I can be messy and do whatever. So like in that sense, you're the same way no matter what.
Right.
You just have to be comfortable in that sense, which was pretty incredible. Do you feel like once you did that, you gained a sense of confidence or a different personality after you did that? Like, did it change your identity?
It was more of a, I'm done dealing with things that stress me out.
Okay.
And so if I cut out everything that is stressing me out, causing me possible stress, then it's just a standard for myself and for the people I interact with. So if you are stressing me out, you're going to have to get cut off. In the same way that my hair was stressing me out, it's going to get cut off too.
Okay.
Like, it is so simple.
So just you were able to carry that over to every aspect of your life.
Yeah, and of course you can't really do that with people too much. I try my best.
Yeah.
To make it happen, but that's not a good thing sometimes, but sometimes it is a good thing.
Yeah.
You know, you have a really hard time letting go of people and letting go of things that you just feel like need to be in your life in order for you to be happy or for you to reach this goal. And it's like, you could probably do without it. You might be much better off without than with.
Yeah. And that's, so just to kind of like give you guys a heads up, so that's also why Joy and I connected in that sense. Is I think she helped me work on my people-pleasing manners and stuff like that. And I think there's a lot of me that, you know, always feels obligated to do stuff for people, even if they hurt me or if there was something that went wrong. And I think she kind of gave me this kind of identity of like, you need to realize your worth and your self, like be more self-aware of your quality and know who's worth that time and who isn't. And if they can't appreciate that time, you are more than welcome to cut them out of your life. And I think the fact that you're able to develop that just from the simple act of shaving your head is incredible because, again, you're able to like teach somebody like me without me needing to shave my head or anything like that, but just being able to learn the lessons. I know, and it's like something I can keep in mind. But I mean, I think for me, like even like, it sounds silly, but even like painting my nails was like this kind of identity of like, okay, I'm gonna do this because it's what I want to do, regardless of what society deems normal or acceptable for a straight man or whatever. And it just like gave me that confidence of like, okay, that's just a minor step in being more comfortable and confident in me as a man and not needing to acclimate or you know, like compartmentalize myself in this box of expectations for people.
Right, you can be whoever you want to be.
Yeah.
Every day.
And it's not as like, you know, it's definitely not as big of a leap as you shaving your head, but it's the only thing I can kind of compare in that aspect. And I think you definitely like inspired me in that sense because you kind of showed me how you can take your life back in a certain manner just by doing simple acts like that. And so I appreciate that. But yeah, I also wanted to kind of just see like, since everything you've been through in your relationship and all that kind of stuff you went through, do you feel like you are now able to approach relationships better, or are you still working on that? How have you kind of been able to identify where you're at in life with that sense?
I think that I'm in a place where I know what I want.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know exactly what I want. I know what I don't want.
Right.
I know what does not work for me, what will not work for me.
Right.
And so those types of boundaries, it's easy for me to be like, oh, absolutely not. Not like, oh, well, we could try it and see. Like, no. Yeah. No, I'm not going to try that. We're not going to see about that.
Like you have your straight lines.
It's a hard no.
Yeah.
It's like a maybe. Some things are a maybe. Some things are a hard no. Like, I will not put up with this.
Yeah.
And that's it. And anyone trying to juxtapose that or like kind of
walk around
maneuver, and like there's no maneuvering because it's a hard no and that's it.
Okay. And then do you have any like advice for girls who might be going, or women or men who are going through maybe something toxic right now and they just need like some kind of advice that maybe you wish you told yourself when you were in the middle of that hole or going through the heat of it? Is there anything that you kind of feel like, or words of wisdom you could impart on them that you did on me? I know it's a tough question, but
it's really about self-preservation at the end of the day.
Yeah.
That's how I feel. So just do things that are going to make your future self proud. That's what I think about for me anyway. And then like talking to you, and when you were like in the midst of it, when you were really going through it, you were hurt, and it's like, that's fine, feel those things, but also look forward. Where are you going and how are you going to aid yourself in getting there? So
yeah, I think another thing you mentioned to me that I still remember because it was pretty recent, but when you're feeling like uneasy or unhappy, like again you said, it's okay to feel that way, but you also need to like get up, go do something fun, go do something creative, work on your passions, like, you know,
I love a distraction.
Yeah, like focus on things that make you happy, and the distractions, like you said, like they need to be productive or they need to be positive. Like the drugs and whatnot are not a perfect distraction. You should focus on something that can help grow you. I mean, you know, whatever suits you that makes you happy in that regard. And so that helped me a lot because yeah, when I do get sad, when I do start to like think of someone or like reminisce over that stuff, you just like, you end up sitting on the couch or lying in bed and you like, it doesn't help. You just kind of snowball effect this depression and anxiety. And I think instead I started honing it into like this podcast and photography and everything else like that. And I think you can put all of that negative energy and somehow convert it into creative energy. And I think that's been great. And like another thing you guys might not know or already know about Joy is she's a YouTuber and she does all this other stuff. So feel free to follow her on her YouTube channel. And
yeah, it's Joy Walls, just first and last name. Joy and
Walls, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so if you guys want to follow her on there, do you want to kind of give them a input on like what your YouTube is about and what you talk on there?
My YouTube is at a crossroads.
Okay.
Because I initially started it to help pre-dental students get into dental school, and then once you're in dental school, to get through that to actually becoming a dentist, because getting in is the easiest part.
Yeah.
But on there, I just talk about whatever I want to.
Yeah.
Most of the time, I really do my best to include pre-dental stuff for dental students. But also, I'll do try-on hauls for figs. I love figs. We love figs. And then I'll also do just life advice. I did a video like that and people liked it. But it's really whatever I want to do.
Basically, just whatever you're feeling in the moment. That's good. Yeah, so this applies to anyone if you're listening. You don't have to be a dental student. You don't have to be a dentist. You don't have to be applying to dental school. You just have to be somebody who's interested in all those aspects of life. But yeah, outside of that, the only other thing I wanted to kind of address, I think we're hoping to have like an hour of this, but Joey has to babysit after this too. So we'll do a longer podcast at some point. But you
I have cookies in the oven.
Oh yeah.
I have to pull it out before I burn
it real quick.
Okay. I'll be right back.
You're good. Ready. Okay, part 2. So another thing I wanted to talk about is, like you said earlier, self-preservation and kind of being more intentional with yourself. So just to kind of give you input on how I've done that, when I was going in the depth of the darkness and everything, I booked tickets to get out of the situation, and I kind of escaped it and went and spent time in Seattle with a good friend of mine. We went hiking and we did all this stuff, and then in another instance I went to Europe to go visit my sister and spend time with my niece and family. I feel like those moments take me away from any feelings of anxiety or uneasiness. Is just spending time with like friends and people I love and just being in a different place. Like I love traveling, right? So in that sense, I think you gave me that rationalization that whenever you're feeling these ways, like you have to find ways to just preserve yourself and do something that you love. And so I was wondering, from your perspective, what is it that you do when you're feeling those feelings or when you're trying to get out of those emotions?
I did the same thing as you.
Okay.
I booked a ticket to San Francisco to see my sister. I also love a trip to Mexico.
Yeah.
Solo travel is also really, really fun and very empowering. Yeah. So I love that. But if you can't book a ticket, if you can't just pick up and leave, just doing small things. Like, I really love baking, and I don't love cooking though. One thing I will do is I will intentionally like get up, cook for myself. Just be very methodical about it. Very like, I'm doing this for you because I love you.
Yeah.
Like, from joy to joy, you know?
Yeah.
So that's one thing that I really do. Baking, sleep in, read a book, listen to a podcast that makes you feel good about yourself, or music. Like, don't listen to sad music unless you want to feel sad. If you want to feel good, listen to music that's telling you, I'm that bitch. Like, come on.
Yeah.
And so I'll do things like that. It can be so small. It doesn't have to be extravagant or expensive. Just intentional. I'm going to do my nails today so that my nails are done. And whenever I'm typing and I look down, my nails are done.
Yeah. That's a good point. And I think I'm pretty bad at listening to sad music because I love sad music.
I know, it's so good. I have a whole playlist of sad songs.
Yeah. Something that definitely... It sucks because I love music so much and I love sad music, and when you're in those states of mind, that's like the one thing you need to avoid. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's a good point. And then the solo travel thing, I agree with completely. I think a lot of people veer away from that, or not a lot of people, but a good amount of people I've talked to, because they feel like, especially women, which I understand, I feel like as a woman to travel alone, it's a lot scarier, and I think as a man, I take that for granted. But if you are able to travel alone and you do have the financial ability and physical ability to do so, I do recommend it, because I think in a way it also further gives you the ability to realize like you can do literally anything you want. Like you have this power to like book a ticket and go to an entirely different place in the world and be independent and make it on your own, and also just like to be happy to like sit down and eat dinner alone. You don't need somebody there with you. Mm-hmm. You can go to a movie alone. You can do all these things and like still appreciate it and enjoy it. And I think that's something I really enjoy about the traveling alone, is you get this experience with yourself and you don't have to rely on anyone or rely on this happiness with anyone else. You can just do it yourself. And then maybe down the road you can enjoy it with somebody or a partner, but you always have this memory of something that you experienced intimately by yourself. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's definitely a good thing. The other thing I wanted to kind of address is something that my last guest, Lacey, who's an incredible human being, she's a therapist. So I just wanted to see where you stand on therapy, and do you still see a therapist right now, and how much value do you put into that as your self-awareness, self-preservation? So I am not seeing a therapist right now because I got my own health insurance and I have to pay for things all by myself. I'm an adult. Living an adult life. Right. But before, when I was in school, I was seeing one through this school, and it was cool. I initially went to therapy for anxiety related to school because it was really bad, to the point where like I'm so physically ill from the stress and anxiety that I can't even take my test like I need to. Yeah. And that really helped me in that aspect. Also, just someone to talk to who understood my journey and my process at the time, because my boyfriend at the time, I'd be like, oh, I'm like, no, I can't do this, this, and that. I don't even want to talk to you right now because I'm so stressed about school. And he's like, oh, it'll be fine. And I'm like, of course it's going to be fine. But I have to make sure that I can do things to make sure I can become Dr. Joy Walls. And that's not going to happen from me just thinking, oh, it's fine. But in therapy for like reconciling things with myself, with like past relationships, it was really helpful because my therapist would help me understand this has nothing to do with you. Like, some things are completely out of your control, and that's fine. Mm-hmm. All you control is all you can control. Yeah. And so if things are outside of you, they're not your decision, someone's acting a certain way that's upsetting you, you can express that to that person. They can change their behavior or they cannot change your behavior. But
you have to deal with how you're going to deal with it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to keep going back to this person who treats me like shit.
Yeah.
And if I do, that's saying a lot more about me than it is about the person.
Yeah. That took me a year and a half to realize, which is like insane because I still have moments of weakness about it, because you think like, you're like, how, like I look back at photos or videos of myself in that moment and I see a different person because I'm like, how did I let somebody treat me like that or talk to me this way? And it's amazing how you're, you know, when you go through that, this anxiety and depression kind of takes over and controls and manipulates a lot of your behavior. But yeah, I mean, when you bring that up too, I'm guilty of, when I was in dental school, I was with somebody who was suffering that same anxiety and depression you were, and I had never experienced it, so I never understood it. So I feel some empathy towards your guy, which, you know, I still think doesn't make it right, but I think when you don't go through it or you don't understand it, it's a lot harder to really empathize with it. And I think even with her, she was physically getting ill, she was having trouble taking these exams and whatnot, and I would just be like, you'll be okay, you know, just breathe, and, you know, simple stupid guy stuff that we say to make it better.
You were doing the best you could with the information you had.
And I appreciate that. But yeah, I look back and I'm like, wow, like I really didn't understand this, and it really makes me feel horrible. And I even talked to her and I apologized for it recently. I was like, you know, I really, until I felt it, that anxiety you've talked about, and I went through it, I didn't understand what you were talking about. And now that I have, I'm so sorry you went through that. And she was like, no, you don't have to apologize. You didn't know the feeling, and I understand, which was really nice, because there was definitely a guilt in me about it. And it's like I brought up earlier with you, I think like once you go through it, you have this responsibility to help people who are going through it, because you can't, like, not a lot of people understand it. And when those people don't understand it and try to give advice, unfortunately that advice usually is more damaging than helpful, because they give you the generic like, oh, don't worry, you'll be fine, you'll get through it. And it's like, if anything, that makes it worse, because it makes you feel guilty, like, why am I not getting through it? Why is it not getting better?
Fine.
Exactly, I did the breathing technique, it's still not better. And so yeah, I think it's definitely something that took a lot of work, and in a weird way, I'm thankful I went through this, because it changes you completely. It makes you a more empathetic person, it makes you a more rational person, and it makes you almost over communicate everything. And within the last couple of relationships, or, you know, people I've talked to, I feel like I now over communicate myself, and I talk more about my feelings and whatnot, to the point where sometimes they're shocked. They're like, I've never talked to a guy that talks about this stuff as much. And it's usually, you know, a good reaction. Like, they're like happy I'm talking about this stuff. And
it's a good skill to have.
Yeah, and I'm thankful for it, because now instead of like just sitting in silence or letting things linger, I would just rather just let it out, talk about it, just get it out of the way, instead of bringing it up later in a fight where it could be taken a lot worse or perceived a lot worse. So that's been pretty great. But the other thing I wanted to kind of bring up was just your ability to kind of express like our value as a person, and how you have to like realize you're a bad bitch, and, you know, like just really like hype yourself up. And I think that's something I still have trouble doing to this day. I think I've always had trouble accepting compliments and like taking compliments and whatnot, and that's something I'm working on. But in that sense, do you feel like it's something that you've kind of developed better over time, or do you feel like you've always had that in you, where you just kind of know your value and your overall quality?
So my family is a big part of that.
Okay.
It's always been like
a positive family.
Yeah, you're
That's
already
good.
it. Like, you're already it.
That's awesome.
There's no going back from that. So I already knew.
Yeah.
Of course, we have moments and situations that make me feel like I'm inadequate, I'm not enough, I can't do this, this, and that. But then I just go back to it. I'm like, I'm 7 years old, getting out the car, going to elementary school, and my mom goes, stay black, stay strong, you can and you will.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
And that's also, I think it's funny that you brought that up, because that was like our first conversation. You made some joke about laughing at your own jokes.
Yeah.
And I DM'd you, I was like, if you don't laugh at your own jokes, why should anybody else?
Yeah, that's true.
Like, if not me, then who? If I don't believe in myself, why should anybody else?
Yeah. I don't know if you saw, Trevor Noah recently, like he did his last show, and I'm a big fan of him, and he ended his last show with like this kind of goodbye speech, and he ended it with saying like, if you want to know like strong, and if you want to talk to somebody, talk to a black female in America, because they've been through everything. Like they're at like the totem pole at the bottom, and they have to work their way through everything. So you know, when shit goes wrong in America, or when something happens, they're the ones that like get most of the effects of it. And I never thought about it that way. Like it's something that's like a given, but you don't really like think about that. And he was saying how like the strongest people in his life are the black women in his life, because they raised him, they showed him like how you need to know your value, you need to know your worth. And I think talking to you kind of brings that up again. It's like, it's really true. It's, you have to have it from a young age, and you have to be inspired by people like that, which like your mom and all these people, they have to really promote that in you, because if you don't get that, then society really breaks you down.
Right. Imagine if I believed everything the world said about me.
Yeah.
And what I should be.
Yeah.
And shouldn't be.
Yeah.
I'd be in this terrible little box.
Yeah.
I don't want to be there.
Unfortunately, I wish Kanye West isn't where he was now, but there was a moment where he had this cockiness that I wish we could, like, that I always wanted to achieve, but then there's always that line you can't cross, and he crossed that line a long time ago. But I think your level is just the right kind of medium, where it's like, you know your worth, you know where you stand, you know your quality, but you also, you don't feel like you're better than everyone, right? Like you still hold human values and other people in light. And that's what you did to me, is like when you found out what I was going through and you were like, talk to me, you talked to me on an equal plane, and it wasn't like you were talking down to me, you weren't making me feel horrible, like, oh, get over it, like whatnot. And I appreciated that even from that perspective, because there could be other people too where once they get over that, they can look at other people and like stand on a pedestal and be like, I got over it, now you can too. And it's like, no, you didn't do that. You're like, listen, I know you're going through this right now, and like, let's talk about it, like, let's get through it, like, feel your feelings. This is all totally normal, and I appreciate that. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're all just on this spinning rock in the galaxy, doing the best we can, and understanding that is a key to empathy for others and for yourself. Yeah. We're all just doing our best.
That's true. This is kind of off topic, but are you like a astrology person? Or is it astrology or astronomy?
Astrology.
Okay.
Astronomy, which one? With the signs?
Yeah.
Astrology.
Okay. Are you?
I'm into it. I don't know as much as I wish I did, but I am into it.
Okay.
So you're a Sag.
Yeah.
Big Sag energy.
Do I have that?
Honestly, you don't.
No?
I don't know why that is, because when I think about Sagittariuses?
Sagittarii.
Sages. Okay. When I think about them, I think about showy, like ostentatious, but in the best way, to where like you just want to, people gravitate towards them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, people don't gravitate towards me.
That's not true. That's not true. Okay. But you're not like boastful, showy.
Oh, thanks.
But you are.
Okay.
In cool. Like a low key way.
Thanks, I appreciate that.
Do you feel that about yourself or no?
I think I've lately been walking this fine line, trying to make sure I show my value, but also try not to be braggadocious about it. But yeah, my therapist and I are working on accepting compliments, which is something I have a lot of trouble with. Recently, I was talking to someone, and she threw like this like boatload of compliments my way, and I just started crying, and I was like unable to like really accept it. I got uncomfortable, and we're trying to like unravel where that issue is with that. And we had this talk, and you told me like, you know, you need to like accept those and take those in. And Zai also told me like, you need to thank people when they say that stuff. Like, don't push it aside or ignore it, because
do you not agree with it? Like, do you not agree with those things that are being said about you, the good things?
I think I have this weird thing in my head where I think sometimes it's like just them being polite, or they're just trying to like be kind. And you know, kind of like when somebody offers you a gift and you deny it out of respect of like not wanting to take something, or not wanting to like them to pay for your bill or whatever. That is kind of like that built into me. It's like, no, like I don't deserve that in a weird way. And so we're figuring that out right now. But yeah, I think I also grew up like not really like dating a lot, and not really being like a ladies' man or anything like that. So when I get those, sometimes a part of me thinks it's like one weird joke or something against me.
Okay.
But yeah.
No, I get it.
Okay.
Because I mean, I'm the same way.
Yeah.
Which is really crazy.
And you definitely played off well, but you even like you taught me like you could still feel that way, but there's nothing wrong with like saying thank you and like showing that to some extent you know that you have that in you, but you don't have to like brag about it or show it off. So yeah.
Because like you need people around you like that though, because even if you don't believe
like
all the things that are being said about you, somebody else believes it, so maybe one day I will too.
Yeah.
And
fair.
you know, you can't always be the one who's on it, super confident, and so when you're not, you need people around you to, like you said, hype you up.
And there's this quote, obviously I have to quote pop culture all the time, but in Euphoria, they were sitting on the curb, and at one point, I think Maddie said it to the other girl. She was like, "I wish you saw yourself the way other people see you," and that quote just made me like break down, because I was like, "Holy shit, that's like that hits me like really hard." And it's true. It's like it's crazy how sometimes you just see yourself in such a different light compared to how people see you, and it's not until like you're on social media or you do all this other stuff and you get these comments and you're like, wow, this person actually like likes my smile. I hate my smile. Or I do this podcast and I hate my voice, but people say nice things, and it's just like it's you do need that sometimes, because you can have such a weird perception of yourself, and it helps a lot to have that just hype. So yeah, I appreciate that. But yeah, I think we're pretty much like hitting the mark for the end of the podcast. So when
I have another question for you.
Yeah.
I know this is your
podcast. We usually end the podcast with stuff like this. So it's kind of nice. Sometimes Zai and a lot of guests ask questions. So
okay.
Go for it.
What are you looking forward to in your 33rd year of life? Because today's your birthday.
Yeah. Thank you for doing this on my birthday too. This is a nice little birthday gift. But I think so. My 30s, I was in the relationship that was not great. 31, I went through this really dark state. 32, I feel like I was growing from that. Like I think like it made me an entirely different person. And so I'm hoping 33 now is me seeing the results of that growth. So hopefully I'm going to see more success, more growth, more, pivotal, formative moments in my life. So I kind of see it as like, this is the muscle that I'm going to be able to now see after working out this last year and a half, mentally speaking. So hoping for that, trying to keep a positive mindset towards that. And I think just, doing this podcast alone, it was like my way of challenging myself to do something that I've never done before. And I think when you do that, it makes you believe that you can do the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. So I'm just going to put more kind of challenges for myself for the next year and see like what I can achieve. So yeah, thanks for calling out my age though. I am feeling really old now.
You're welcome.
So I appreciate it. But yeah, I want to say thank you for coming on the podcast. I love you. You're a great person to
Thank
have
you
around.
for having me.
And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you have any questions, Joy, you want to give them information about your social media accounts?
Okay. So on Instagram, I am Dr. Joyous, DrJoious. And on I already said Instagram, yikes.
Yeah.
So YouTube is just Joy Walls. So JOI Walls, like normal.
TikTok or anything else?
I don't like TikTok.
Okay, I don't either. So that works out.
But yeah, thank you so much for having me. Love you so much. I'm so glad we're friends.
Thanks, Joy. And yeah, if you guys have any questions for her, feel free to reach out to her. Feel free to follow her YouTube. And smash that like button and subscribe.
Subscribe.
Yeah.
Don't watch my videos and not subscribe.
Yeah.
And if you click a video, you better let it play all the way through.
Yeah, good call. Okay. All right, guys, have a good day, and I'll talk to you later. If you have any passions, make sure you hone them and enjoy them, and go take care of yourself and love yourself. Right, Joy? Okay, bye.
That was good.
That was good.
Okay, that's it. That's the end of the episode. If you liked it, if you thought something was impactful, go ahead and put it in the comments section. I would love that. If you want more content from Hamza, all you have to do is go to his Instagram, and he does lots of fun things with music there and also movies. His podcast is on Anchor FM, and it's also on Spotify. So go check it out and run it up in the comment section for him. All right, bye y'all.